There, I see the red light. Wow, we all have to behave now. Very cool. So we will get this EAC meeting kicked off on March 23rd. And why don't we start real quick by acknowledging any guests that are here, particularly those that might have registered in advance. So Shelley, can you help identify our guests?
Are you Mr. McMahon, Dad's iPad?
Yes, I am. Bill McMahon. I think I've been invited to be a member of the EAC, but I'm not sure of the process, but I'm glad to be here. I missed the last meeting. I had trouble with my iPad, so now I'm okay. Good morning, good afternoon.
Hello, and it was Mr. McMahon?
Bill McMahon.
Bill McMahon. Thank you very much, Bill McMahon. So
Welcome.
let's
No
see if
relation to the past mayor, although we were business partners for 20 years.
Oh, that's
Wow.
wild.
Very cool. Well, we'll give everyone a
Okay.
chance to introduce themselves. Let's just see if there are any other guests here. I see Dave Tellerico.
Hello?
Hello. Anybody else, Shelley?
Nope. Everybody else is part of our regular crew.
Very cool. So what I have in front of me is the agenda that Shelley circulated. So if it's okay with everybody, we'll follow the agenda. Any additions to the agenda before we get kicked off? Bethany.
I would like to just give a quick update on the community cleanups that are happening in April.
Community cleanups. Very good, Bethany. So we will add that to that project updates section of the agenda. Does that work for you? Shelley?
I also have an item relative to the Victory Garden Task Force.
All right, and Victory Gardens. Any other additions to the agenda?
And Scott, I don't know when you're going to get to new business or project updates, but I need to drop off at 1:15 for another meeting I have at 1:30. So just FYI.
Very cool. Thank you, David. And Marcia, I saw your hand go up.
Yes, and I noted, I didn't attend the last meeting. There was a pretty intense plan regarding the pagoda and sustainability. I just need to provide an update regarding the status of the pagoda.
Got it. Very cool. And I know we have that under project updates, I believe. Yep. Very good. Thanks, Marcia. Very cool. So then sticking.
I'm sorry, it's Ralph. I just want to let you know, I have to drop off at 1:15 today for another Zoom meeting.
That sounds good. Thank you for the heads up, Ralph.
Thank you.
So with that, why don't we go through kind of some of the formal pieces and approve the minutes. What we'll then do is, Shelley, if I could lean on you just to walk our guests through what it would take to be an official member of the EAC. And David Bean, can we lean on you for you and Kathy to tag team the history of the EAC? It's just kind of a brief intro for Bill.
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful. So why don't I start with any questions about the minutes that Shelley shared from last month's EAC Council? Questions, comments? Very good. So
Move to accept.
second,
Second.
any additional discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Woo. Okay, Shelley. And I see we've got one additional guest that's bounced in. Naomi, can you introduce yourself just very, very briefly?
Hi, I'm Naomi Krim. I'm a planner with the city. Yeah, I don't know if I need to say anything else.
That's wonderful, Naomi. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we will go around and introduce everyone here just briefly, but Shelley, if you could walk Bill through real fast at a high level, what it takes to be hazed into the EAC.
Sure. So there is an application process. The application's available online, or I can send it to you by email. Once we get that back from you, there is a process where we check for any outstanding taxes, fees, any of those kinds of things with Reading. And just to let you know that residents are preferred unless you have a specific type of education or training that would benefit the board that you're applying to.
Very cool. Thank you. And so Shelley, can you make sure and email Bill the application? Very cool. David, I'll let you start, and then Kathleen will add color commentary to what the heck is the EAC and what's Bill volunteering to get himself involved with.
Okay, so the EAC was created back in, the Reading Environmental Advisory Council was created back in 2007, I believe. We are authorized to have up to 7 members. We, for the most part, meet monthly with some exceptions. We don't meet in December, and we usually consolidate 2 of our summer meetings. We're tasked to do a number of things. One is to serve as a resource to City Council and the administration. So Council will periodically refer matters to us for review and comment that involve issues of environmental policy, sustainability, alternative energy. We likewise work very closely with the administration as it proceeds to implement environmental sustainability matters in the city. We also have the ability under our charter to advance causes of our own that we think are of benefit to the city. So we're authorized to make proposals to City Council for various ordinances, which we've done over the years. We've drafted and proposed, and Council has passed a rain barrel ordinance, an alternative energy ordinance, a riparian buffer ordinance, a steep slope ordinance. We've taken a look at the building codes in the city to the extent they don't quite conform with matters of green construction and sustainability that we're working on. So that, I guess, in a nutshell is what we do. We're obviously limited in terms of what we can do since we're only authorized to have up to 7 members. So we work closely with folks who are not members of the EAC, whether it's from the administration or folks who don't want to be members but would like to be ad hoc members of our committee structure. We have a very active green infrastructure committee. So the 7 members, attempt to push down to the committee level as much as we possibly can, and then to bring in folks from the outside with expertise that can help us to implement policy. So Kathy, anything to add? That, I guess, is in a nutshell what we do and who we are.
I think that was an excellent nutshell, and I don't.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And I see we've had Brian bounce into this call as well, Shelley, just to make sure you saw that.
I guess, actually, I will add one thing. Thinking about Brian, because he asked this question before, sort of to what extent we have a number of professionals on the staff, and we try to, but more so that we can understand the issues, find people to network with, find out who's doing something in that field, rather than to actually do legal work or geology work or engineering work itself. Now, we occasionally do review something like, if there's a project going to planning, which is one of the first ones asking for a waiver of our slope regulation, steep slope regulation. So they came to us to see if we could help with thinking about the intent and whether this was the kind of thing that was outside of what we were trying to address, or whether we would really object or feel that the slope ordinance should not be waived. We wouldn't do that on a regular basis, but if the community asked us about a problem or an issue, we would look into it and use our expertise to sort of form a professional of concept or sort of an opinion that then we could ask questions about to others in the administration or outside.
Thank you, Kathy. Very good. And as I look around at the faces on this call, I know some folks have expressed interest in membership. Marcia, I will ask this question of you, but maybe Shelley has insights as well. What's the current status of adding new members to the EAC? And if we can't talk about that in the public setting, that's understandable. But are there any updates that the EAC should be aware of?
They are
Shelley.
proceeding, yeah, they are proceeding through the process. They're both currently on the mayor's desk for his review.
Very cool. Thank you so much. So, so Bill, that's just some additional insights kind of in how that process works. The only other thing I would add to what David and Kathy, former chairs of the EAC, the ones who kind of made this place what it is. The only thing I would also add is we always have committees and anybody can serve on the committees. And that's actually how we get stuff accomplished. So Bill, do you want to take just a minute or two and introduce yourself and your connection to these kinds of issues, your connection to the city before we move on with our meeting?
I'd be glad.
I don't think I need to do it for Bill. We've known each other a long time.
And,
But
and
I will add
Bill
that,
Vitale, I was actually talking to Bill McMahon. I'm sorry, Bill.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I thought you were introducing the members. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
Yes, I do know Bill Vitale for a long time. We were neighbors for over 30 years. I've been a resident of the city for over 30 years. I've owned buildings in the city for a long time. I currently own the Medical Arts Building, North 5th Street. I'm an engineer. I helped found NTech Engineering with Tom McMahon, and I'm retired from there, but I have an engineering business in town. I've been helping the city here recently with energy audits for the library and city hall. I've helped negotiate better electric rates for the city. I'm interested in helping the city to become better, and I'm glad for the invitation, and I'll be glad to fill out the application and go up for consideration. But I'm pleased to see there's a nice committee that's handling these things.
Wonderful.
What
Thank
kind
you,
of
Bill.
engineer are you? Are you civil?
By education, I'm a civil engineer, but I have an MBA, and I actually specialize in economics. So cost estimating and economic analysis.
Very cool. Thank you.
So economics of engineering?
Of construction, of energy use, of anything that uses energy.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Very cool. And knowing that we've got a couple of people that need to leave at 1:15, why don't we just, I will look across my screen just so that everybody can say hello. So I'm going to just kind of read across first the members of the EAC and then circle back with guests. So David, that means you're going to be first up. If you would just kind of do the name, how long you've been on the EAC, and kind of where your expertise derives from.
Sure, David Bean. I'm a former chair of the EAC, been on since 2009. I'm an environmental, alternative energy, and sustainability lawyer, and I've been doing that type of work for over 30 years.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. And then looking across my screen, I see Anne, Bill Vitale, and Kathy next.
All right. I'm Ann Sellers. I have a very small civil engineering and landscape architecture firm. I'm trained as a landscape architect, and I specialize in green infrastructure, stormwater management, and multimodal systems.
Thank you. So Bill Vitale, Kathy, and then we'll bounce to Marcia.
Bill Vitale. I'm a retired architect. I've been on the EAC, I think, approaching 2 years now.
Thanks, Bill. Kathy, then Marcia.
I'm a retired professor from Alvernia University and an adjunct, still an adjunct professor at Albright. I'm an environmental lawyer and work mostly in public sector, but some in private sector. And water is my favorite and specialty. And I've lived in Reading for 7 years, and I live in the city, and have been on the council for 6 years.
Thank you, Kathy. Marcia?
Hi, Marcia Goodman Hinnershitz. I'm the city council representative for District 2. And if you want to raise your hands, we have quite a few District 2 people that serve on the EAC. I did the legislation working with Shelley Smith to be able to get the EAC established, and I've been on it since its inception. And I have a personal interest in environmental and sustainability issues, and will advocate for that representing the city.
Thank you, Marcia. So, and apologies, I didn't formally introduce myself, but my name is Scott Case. I am currently the chair of the EAC and have been doing sustainability consulting for very, very long time. And I currently focused a lot on retailers. So if you will all forgive me, rather than going around the room and saying hello to absolutely everybody, in the interest of time, I'll bounce into the agenda. Is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Excellent. And doing that means, Kathy, you're up because there's an update on the city brownfield sites and your name is connected to that. So Kathy, if you would walk us through what we need to know.
Okay. David Bean and I had a discussion with Deb Millman about, and oh dear, David, remind Andrew something from Liberty, who does
Andy Fetterman.
Andy Fetterman. And about their interest from the business community and economic development point of view in getting a no-use aquifer designation for the whole aquifer under the city, the whole geographic area under the city. David, I'm going to pass off to you because you're really the expert on Act 2 things. All I would say is that the whole point of this is to facilitate redevelopment and people who want to come and use some of our abandoned or decrepit properties or old industrial properties. And this helps them get through the Act 2 work. So David, I think you can do this better than I.
Yeah, so the non-use aquifer designation would simply streamline the Act 2 process for potential developers when it comes to groundwater impacts within the city. So under so-called Act 2, which is the land recycling and release of liability statute in Pennsylvania, if you have a property that's impacted with soil or groundwater contamination, you have the ability to obtain a release of liability from DEP for constituents in soil and groundwater if you're able to demonstrate that you've attained certain standards. And there are several different levels of liability relief that you can obtain. So typically for older industrial sites in a city, you'd be looking at what's called a site-specific release of liability. That means you're not taking soil off-site and remediating it. You're basically letting soil or impacted groundwater alone. You're not touching it. But as part of the remediation that you're conducting for soil, for instance, you're going to make sure that a cap, whether it's an asphalt cap, concrete cap, or a vegetative cap, remains in place so there's no direct contact with that soil. And with groundwater, you're either going to demonstrate that it's never going to migrate over a 30-year period to a point where it might hit a receptor, like a stream or somebody's well. And all of that takes time, especially with groundwater. And the item we're talking about here, the non-use aquifer designation, it's just groundwater, it's not soil. So when you have developers coming in, looking at older industrial sites in the city, they're obviously not going to close and obtain title until they get that release of liability. And with respect to groundwater, that's going to involve a very labor-intensive sampling regime that could take up to 8 calendar quarters or 2 years, probably at a minimum. As a way to circumvent all that, if the city already has in place a non-use aquifer designation so that the applicant is able to demonstrate to DEP, not only are there not any supply wells within 2,500 feet of this particular site, but it doesn't matter because the whole community is on public water anyway. And by ordinance, every property in the city must connect to public water. In that instance, DEP is not going to require the applicant to go through this very labor-intensive process of conducting a very intensive groundwater characterization. So it's simply a way to streamline the process. And, Deb Millman thinks that it would greatly benefit their efforts to market older distressed properties in the city. Kathy, I hope that summarizes things for you.
Yeah, I think it does. And that's really helpful and more accurate than I would be. I think that the key is here that what has to happen is a survey. So what they're asking is to partner with us on this if we would support the idea of having a non-use aquifer, people at Liberty would do the homework that has to be done. To do a non-use, for a city to ask for a non-use aquifer, they have to identify the groundwater that's currently being used to make sure every well that's out there. And while there shouldn't be any drinking water wells, there certainly probably are some commercial wells. And you have to track down groundwater usage so you can say, no, this aquifer isn't going to be used. So there's no risk to people there's no pathway where people can get exposed. And that's what you're doing is saying de facto, we don't have to worry about it. We know what use is being made of the groundwater. It's not drinking water use. So we don't have to make a person who's going to come in to use the property, protect it for groundwater use. That is for non-industrial. For agriculture, it's agriculture and drinking water, because agriculture then does have potential human impact. So we're looking for any use like that. So one area, for instance, that we need to make sure is that all those community gardens in the city, make sure nobody's got a well that they're using for agriculture. And if they did, see whether we could hook them up to city water instead. And so those are the kinds of things you would do in this survey. We said, don't have anybody, city's way too busy to take something like that on, and we certainly can't do it. They said, oh, no, that's why Liberty's here, because Liberty, the chamber and Liberty would act as partners and pay and provide the resources to have that professionally done. And they want us to be, a networking conduit to explain the idea, to talk with the administration and council about it and so forth. So we said what we will do is bring it to you all. And if you thought it sounded like something worth taking under consideration, that we would invite them to the next meeting to have them do a more direct presentation. But I didn't want to have them come until we floated it and saw whether we really might be interested or not in promoting a non-use aquifer designation for the city. I will note that Lancaster City has done that. In Lancaster. So
Thank you, Kathy.
So
I guess the question for us at this meeting is what decision do you need from us today to take next steps?
Well, I think, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were looking for whether we think that this is an issue worthy of further consideration for the city that would benefit redevelopment and clarify environmental requirements.
I mean, we're still in the investigative stage here, Scott, so there's no formal motion that's needed on this. I mean, we're still trying to decide, what information is required for this process to move forward. At some point, there may be a need for a formal motion, but we're not there yet.
Very good. Thank you, David. Then Kathy and David, if you're okay with it, what I would do is ask Shelley to add some time, a 15-minute slot in the next meeting for a presentation where we can all come up to speed on the issue. And we'll designate an additional 5 minutes for Q&A. Does that work?
I think that'd be great.
Could I ask him a quick question, Scott?
Go for it.
Yeah, so either David or Kathy, just a question about collected rainwater for use in, say, a garden. Would that preclude the use of something like that if
No.
if they?
It's only a groundwater focus. Are you pulling groundwater?
Oh, okay, so either public or collected water could be used.
Right.
Perfect. Thanks for the clarification, Ann. So Shelley, if you're good, we'll add, time for a 15-minute presentation and some Q&A afterwards. Kathy, have you already shared with Shelley who our point person is so she can drop them an email?
It's Deb Millman at the chamber, and did I send it to you? I'll send it to you.
I don't think so, but I could probably find it if you don't have it.
I'll send it.
Cool. Thank you, Kathy. Very cool. So then keeping an eye on the agenda, we get to introduce Dave Tellerico, and I have all sorts of Dave Tellerico stories to share, but I'm not sure any of them are appropriate for the EAC meeting. But I will introduce Dave very quickly as the chair of the 18th Ward, the 18th Wonder Improvement Association. So there's that piece, but I think he's here today to talk instead about his additional work with the Reading Housing Authority. So Dave, can we turn it over to you?
Sure. And that's correct. It's really an interesting project that we're working on because it's not only the 18th Ward Association, it's the Reading Housing Authority, but it's also the city of Reading with the that intersection realignment that was going to take place. Because if any of you are familiar with that intersection, Hancock and East Wyomissing Boulevard, it's just a vast, multi-directional, vast expanse of street and blacktop, and it's been a stormwater problem forever. I've been at the Housing Authority for 38 years. I started in Oak Brook as a maintenance guy in 1983. So, and so I've seen that intersection where the water is above the curb and people can't even travel through there. It's just horrendous. It's always been that way since 1952. So so obviously 18th Ward, we were working on the bike trail, the pedestrian trail along the boulevards. That had a lot of city involvement there with how that design was going to go. That intersection almost instantly became identified as a problem area. So when I started looking at how the Housing Authority was going to renovate its office and add another 3,200 square feet, it was a non-conforming use already because there was no off-street parking. So what we needed to do was improve that condition the best we could. And I started to look because, Liggett, it's an established street and it was just always that way. So you're not really thinking out of that box yet, and you try to do your project on the land that you currently own. So we were on the north side of the building, I'll refer to it as like the Berks Catholic side of the building.
Okay.
And there's a really nice green space there. We were going to tuck an addition in and try to get parking on that well-maintained established green space. And then you instantly look at that and say, oh man, I'm going to be putting more water into that intersection no matter how I try to do this. So coincidentally, I got a hold of Public Works, a fellow by the name of Ralph Johnson, and we agreed to meet out at the site, and looking at the north side and recognizing that I could, spend in the area of $300,000 or $400,000 and create a situation and then try to resolve it, or what would the alternative be to try to resolve the existing stormwater problem on Liggett Avenue and Hancock. So that began with some interesting conversations about utilities and things that would have to happen with land conveyance and things of that nature and redesigning the intersection. But we're really far along right now, and it's actually been presented to City Council. It's been publicly advertised. And I think it was well received that I did send Michelle and Scott a few PDFs if you're interested in sharing that site map, we could put some eyes on it and I'll try to walk you through what we intend to do there. So while she's doing that, the Housing Authority, that's our central admin office.
And Dave, real quick, the materials that you shared, I know Shelley added to the agenda pack for today's meeting.
Okay.
So for those of you that have the agenda, you can open that up and take a look. Shelley, do you want to try and share it? And she's muted, but go ahead, Dave, and I'll try and pull it up.
So,
one of us will pull it up.
While we're doing that, the work that's going to happen in the building, it's an existing 7,500 square foot building. We're going to add on approximately 3,000. So we're going to settle in around 10,000 square feet. We're going to do, the building was built in 1974. What we've decided to do was a gut renovation of the existing building, and then a new addition on, again, the north side. I'll refer to like the Berks Catholic side. So that shaded area is currently some of our front yard and mostly the base at the bottom of Liggett Avenue. What that will do, we'll extend the curbing and we'll put that little dog leg in Liggett Avenue to get two-way traffic there. We've negotiated that with SSM, City of Reading, the Planning Commission, and what we're going to also do is we allowed some extra width there so we can connect the bike trail. That's existing bike trail on Kenners Boulevard, the upcoming bike trail on East Wyomissing Boulevard, and we could connect that with Liggett Avenue. So that would just be another nice little tributary for the bike trail. So we widened that street up enough to do that. Back to the stormwater, that water comes racing down Liggett Avenue into the low-lying area right in front of our office building. So our parking lot design is for 44 cars. It'll be basically what I'll consider like a cut and fill. There'll be a retaining wall along the west section of the parking lot where the bump out is, where the little tree pit there. And we're putting in a rather large, extensive infiltration bed under the parking lot. So what we intend to do is to detain every drop of the water that we're creating a hard surface for, an impervious surface, but then also piping some of that water coming off the Liggett into the infiltration bed so that it can be eliminate that flooding in the intersection. So that is being designed by Stackhouse Bensinger. We're actually going to the Planning Commission tonight in hopes to get a conditional or possibly final approval for our lot and our building. So the stormwater, instead of creating a problem, we want to help the city resolve a problem and still put our building into a higher level of conformance with code because of the off-street parking. We're also adding 10 on-street parking spaces. So we're eliminating 9 on street, but we're bringing back 10, and then we're adding 44 for staff and visitors, contractors, because this does house the Housing Authority's training facility, our conference room. We meet there several times a year with 80 employees. We've hosted 18th Wonder meetings there, and we intend to host a lot of other meetings there. So it's a meeting center and a training facility that we'll be using it for. Any questions?
Wow, Dave, that's awesome. A couple of quick questions. One, what's the timeline, the construction timeline?
The project went out for bid last Friday. So we hope to go to the May board meeting with construction bids. We want to start in June, and we're looking at about a 9 to 10 month construction period. So we want to be in the building February of 22. So we want
Beautiful. And I know others might have questions. I see Marcia's hand. One thing I'll just flag, Ann Sellers may be listening in the background. But Dave, we do have a program we're talking about to put up some signage to celebrate some of the green infrastructure. And when you're talking about collecting stormwater through porous pavement in the parking lot, that sounds very worthy of celebrating with a sign at some point. So
Okay.
we'll just kind of follow up there.
Definitely.
But Marcia had her hand up, so we should let Marcia go.
Okay, and just to add on, council did have the complete presentation. A lot of questions were answered. Last night, we awarded a contract to Doug Lamb Construction. So that has to do with the street and the work that needs to be done there that will complement then what the Housing Authority does. So it's a very much needed project. For myself, I just could never understand why that intersection was designed the way it was. It was like nonsensical. So I'm glad suddenly someone has come forward with a good plan and have that environmental component integrated into it.
Marcia,
By the way,
oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
I just wanted to say, this is a major investment for the city. The contract that was awarded was $556,000.
Yes. And that was for all the sidewalk corners and ADA ramps on what I'll call the curb side, the street side, all the way from Lancaster Avenue to Kenner's Boulevard, right? Or Museum Road.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Does that
Bring it-
include parking? Does that include the parking lot?
No, that's where the Housing Authority, we're absorbing the cost of this parking lot. This is not a city project. We're absorbing the cost of all the curbing, sidewalk, reconfiguration of storm drains, the parking lot itself, the retaining walls. That's all Housing Authority capital. We're not looking to the city for any of that.
So I have a quick question, Dave. You may not know
Sure,
the
and
answer. to
Ann,
this.
I saw Kathy's hand up
Oh,
too. So
sorry.
after your
Okay.
question, we'll go to Kathy. Go ahead, Ann, then we'll go to Kathy.
Oh, okay. I thought I was waiting on Kathy. So as far as, I mean, we're talking about signage for the parking, for infiltration. Do you happen to know what the infiltration rates of the soil are there?
I'm going to tell you something, Ann. The short answer is no. I have $8.5 million worth of construction out for bid right now, and I do not get into that. I trust my professionals for that information. I know they've talked about it multiple times and they're seeking approvals, and I do not know the infiltration rate, but I know that it's been accepted by the city of Reading, whatever we're building.
Okay, and just one real quick, that kind of brings up another question pertaining to Act 2 and utilizing infiltration on the sites that are being constructed where there's mitigation needed for contaminants. So if it's capped, then, and in addition to that, infiltration cannot be used on those sites. I'm guessing, is that right, David?
There are no environmental issues there.
No, I was referring to the Act 2 that they talked about earlier.
I don't know why you couldn't use infiltration. I mean, you're not using it. There's no supply well on the property for drinking water purposes. So I'm not aware that the non-use aquifer designation we're talking about would prove to be an impediment for infiltration.
no, I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't think so either.
Kathy, you had questions too.
I'm good. That's fine.
Very cool. Other questions for Dave Tellerico?
Just a
Go for
quick
it, Bill.
informational question. Dave,
Yep, Bill Vitale and then Bill
McMahon.
McMahon.
just who designed the building, Dave?
It's Catter and Kelly, Aaron Booth specifically, and Stackhouse Bensinger is civil. Aristides is working on that.
Cool. And Bill McMahon?
I just wanted to let Dave know that I'm on the board in charge of the facilities for Berks Catholic. If there's anything we can do to help you, we'd be happy to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. We've been working closely with Tony Ballesteri,
Okay.
and I've been working on getting yours some flashing lights and some curb indentations there that would improve some things at the school. So yes, let's work together.
Okay, very good.
I just
Very
wanted to
cool.
mention too, this is not a LEED certified building. We're taking steps. You know, we're using renewable materials. We're using lumber, which I'm lately I'm second guessing that with the prices of lumber. But you know, we're redoing the HVAC system with a much more efficient system. Obviously, we're using LED lighting. We have a construction waste plan, goal of 75% will be segregated and recycled. You know, so we do as much as we can consciously with materials coming in, materials going out of the building, to be sensitive to the issues. We also removed an underground oil tank in 2019. It's actually was sitting where the addition would go now. So, you know, Element Environmental did that. It was all professionally tested and everything was clear. So we're moving things that could present problems in the future. So we don't believe in encapsulating or hiding or going over anything. We want it abated properly and fix things as we go along.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. And I don't know if you're watching the chat room, but you're getting applause in the chat room as well. So, anything else you want to share with us, Dave, before we move on to the next piece of our agenda?
I just want to say that this is like I started out between the 18th wonder, the city of Reading, and the Housing Authority. This is a perfect example of how things should work. I mean, everybody in this city has done a fantastic job. The cooperation has been unbelievable. 18th wonder people rise to the challenge. Bill, you just did it yourself, but knowing that you're a neighbor, you know, so the neighbors are working together and the entities are working together, and it's been a fun project. What a project that could be very difficult has become very exciting and very fun. Meeting new people just like this has been a great experience for us. So
excellent. Thank you, Dave. And it's such an incredibly important part of the city. So thanks for all the greening efforts and the broader improvement efforts that you're making.
I can't wait to get to the fun part, like the landscaping part, where we can really make it look nice as well. So,
including perhaps some signs that the EAC is working on, which is later on our agenda. So you're welcome to sit through the rest of the meeting, Dave, and hear about that.
I'll stick with you for another 15 minutes.
We need a place for infiltration pits, tree pits for our signage.
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay, well, let's talk
you
about
might
that.
wanna- You might want to
guys-
mention that to Aristides.
Or if you throw me an 8.5 by 11 SK drawing, we'll try to work it into the plan. Show me what you're thinking, because I don't want to take a stab at it and do something wrong. So if you have information, we'll be glad to look at it.
So why don't we bounce that to the Green Infrastructure Committee, which is Kathy's domain. So Kathy, are you okay with that?
Yeah, sounds like a good
Perfect.
plan.
All right. Then looking at the next
And we'll
piece
help
of
do
the
that.
Thank you very much.
Looking at the next piece of the agenda, we are highlighting some of the sustainability initiatives. So I guess looking around the room, Bethany, that might fall on you for a quick update, and unless the proper people aren't here.
We do have, apparently the interviewing process for the new sustainability manager is going to start very soon. And we have also put out the application for the new Clean City Coordinator position, which will be a combination of the downtown staff that is going to be dedicated to taking care of the downtown staff, as well as community building in conjunction with our cleanups. So those positions hopefully will be filled by the next meeting.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers
Excellent, Bethany.
crossed, and then we're gonna have some pretty big transitions going on in sustainability and solid waste. And I do want to thank everybody for the support that we've been given as we've gone through some really big transitions already this year.
Yeah, excellent.
Everybody's
Thank you.
support has been wonderful. Thank you.
So before we leave that piece of the agenda, there's a broader question. I'll just leave it as a question. We don't have to answer it here. But there is an awful lot of new money coming from the federal government to address infrastructure needs. In my new role, one of the fun tasks I got to do was read the 981-page Clean Futures Act, which was, yes, laugh at me, Kathy. Yes.
You're one of 3 people on the planet that has done that.
Whoa. So what is absolutely fascinating for the city of Reading is there is a ton of money coming for energy efficiency upgrades, for green infrastructure improvements, for any other number of pieces to help low-income people address energy efficiency, for the transition to renewable energy. So there's a lot of stuff. What I am hearing in DC is that there's no way this bill will actually become law, but already what we're seeing is people cutting and pasting from this bill into other legislation. So the question, and Bethany, I saw your message, yes, we'll get you this info. The question is really, what can the city of Reading be doing so that when that money actually hits the street, we're first in line to collect it? And what that means is making sure we have infrastructure in place, programs ready to go. So kind of these shovel-ready kinds of projects. Otherwise, all these other communities across the country are going to be in line ahead of us. So, Marcia, I think I saw your hand and then Bethany's.
Okay, and the city is aware there will be different funding streams coming towards us. So the administration is working on a plan to present to council to understand, first of all, the requirements, because there's always strings attached to all of this. And this isn't only about the sustainability, but other money that has to do with infrastructure, which has to do with economic development. It's all going to be coming down, and there'll be different guidelines as far as when it needs to be spent. So I think it will be important that the city give an update to the community once we know the direction it's going, because now only thing that's been floated out there is millions of dollars are coming to the city without any real clarification.
Exactly.
So,
thank you, Marcia.
One thing that, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Kathy, go ahead, and then
You
we'll
go
let
ahead of
Dave
me. Okay.
Talarico jump in.
Okay, I don't know the answer to this either, but Congresswoman Houlihan was circulating information about earmarks because they're going to be reinstated as sort of part of another way to do stimulus and to bring back big projects and frankly help people to meet across the aisle over things they care about. So, and what struck me in that is I've been asked by a couple people, do you know of shovel-ready projects that should go on the list to the Congresswoman? And, it was really hard to come up with them on short notice. And I'm wondering if there's any way we could help put out the word that people should, or that some way that we could have I don't know if it's us, but somebody should be trying to gather up what projects are out there. Because I was in charge of the 2008 stimulus for green infrastructure for the state, and it was a nightmare. I mean, it really was a nightmare. We amazingly did it, but oftentimes, as Marcia said, they'll have things like you have to have it under contract within a year. So it has to be conceptually along the way and needs to have the green parts in it because you can't then insert them in that amount of time. So anyway, I'm concerned about how we get people to share what they would like to do and what they've got moving or interest in to try and make a list and be ready.
I
Sounds
think
good.
I
Thank
sent
you,
a
Kathy.
link to a few
And
folks.
Dave was next. We'll bounce to you
Oh,
after.
sorry.
Dave?
I've got two projects for you. You can have them today. They're both out for bid. We have the Oak Brook line. We have the safety pedestrian bike trail. We could do so much more with the stormwater there along that stretch. Phase one, they just awarded a contract last night. You've heard them. Marcia just mentioned it. Our project's out for bid. Would the housing authority qualify for a grant? Would 18W qualify for a grant? Could we help you obligate those funds? Because we are ready.
Dave, I'll send you a link to the application. It's due like either tomorrow or the next day.
Great.
But it's really simple. I've heard it's really simple. But
So
it's
what,
a
so
shovel-ready
the
project.
infrastructure plan came out last week and the application is due tomorrow? Is that the way it works?
Well, we are only given like 10 days.
And
But
it's a different, that's a different grant cycle than what Kathy and Scott are talking about.
Exactly.
I'm not sure. This is, oh, really? This is, yeah, okay, so this is walking around money, basically. It's what they used to call it.
Yeah, that's different. And I saw Brian, looks like you took yourself off mute. You have a contribution here?
I did not take myself off mute, Scott, but I'd be interested in seeing what the language is as far as the projects. I know that RAC has gotten expects to get money for the CARES 2 funding that's coming through. And the CARES 2 funding has language that says if you're going to do HVAC work, you need to include COVID relief measures. Doesn't define what that is. So we're working with RAC right now to evaluate different COVID relief measures, whether that's UV lights or that's filtration or that's, another one skipping my mind. But anyway, we're working with Ken Deerstein and RAC looking at saying, how do we meet the requirements of the funding to have COVID relief and then use the money to make HVAC and energy improvements to to address deferred maintenance needs on campus? So, depending on what the language is here and what money comes, you could be in a similar situation which says, how do you make use of the money to address capital renewal and deferred maintenance needs, address energy needs, and how do you do that and go through the planning effort and then be ready to go shovel ready to use the money by the end date that they're stating you need to do it by.
Well, thank you, Brian. So any other comments there before we move to old business, which would lead us to Ann and the signs?
Well, I want to ask David Tallarico, would you like me to send you the link to Chrissy's office? And I guess my other question is Houlihan is Reading in Houlihan's district? It is. Oh, great. Okay. So I'll send you the link. Apparently it's really simple, Dave.
We've done grant applications in less than 24 hours before. I'll be glad to take a look at it.
It's like walking around money. It's not even like, it's sort of called a grant, but yeah.
Good luck, Dave.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Ann. Very cool. Then let's bounce over to the old business. No, we're going to lose a couple of people here. Old business, we'll start with an update on the signs and then any updates on invasive plants before we start talking Victory Garden. So this is going to be the Ann and Kathy show for the next couple of minutes.
Okay, so the signs, we're talking about 3 signs at this point, so we can save some money. And the 3 being, we thought a tree trench, because people really don't understand how a tree trench works. And then like a basketball court, which we have in the city of Reading, with an infiltration bed underneath. So sign for that. And then we thought a sign for a rain garden to show how that works. And it was really interesting. Someone on the green infrastructure call she was asking all the questions that are answered with the sign. So it was really encouraging. because somebody that really knew a lot about a lot of things didn't know about it. Like most people don't know, the weeds of how infiltration works. So we're choosing 3 signs. We think it will be easy to find a basketball court site. We're struggling finding a tree trench site. And then we thought about a couple places like a school. And then the rain garden's a fairly easy find in the city of Reading.
What we came down, I'm going to give them the specifics of what the ones we discussed that we're aware.
Okay, good,
people can
good.
react. So we have Memos or Amanda Stout might have a tree trench available. But now, Tellerico might have tree trench available too, it sounds like. The City Park Band Shell had constructed wetland we were thinking about including. Stonecliff's got a new rain garden being done, and that would be a really good location. Brooks History Center has a rain garden, but if I had to choose, personally, if I had to choose between that and Stonecliff, I think the Stonecliff location would get more traffic in a different neighborhood. And let's see, what else did we? Then we also noted that things that we'd like to do, the 11th and Pike is where the playground is already, the basketball court is already porous pavement, and the future updates will also be porous pavement. So it's a real good one for us to do, because we'll say, look for, a basketball court near you that's going to get them when they get cleaned up. So that was a key one for us to do. And then we thought there's a green roof at Doubletree, and there's one, and Berks Nature has nice rain gardens, and Albright has a rain garden, but we thought all of those can do their own advertising. We'd like to put them on our map when we get back to mapping these things again, which was our original purpose that became more difficult than we expected. But so any comments about any of those choices, or anybody that knows a better or equally good one? Bill?
Well, first of all, just in terms of the rain garden options of whether we put a sign up at Stonecliff or the Berks History Center, we might have mentioned this last time, and maybe we can do both. Maybe we can fund the one at Stonecliff, but see if Berks History Center wants to partner on putting one there. Maybe that can be a model for ones that go on nonprofit or private property. I tried twice contacting the architect for Amanda Stout and also Kristen Boyd at the school district, and I've gotten no response. So I think it was a long shot that there was a tree trench. I'm wondering if, going back to all our discussion about all this money that's coming, maybe we should quickly figure out a place for a tree trench, put one in. So we have a place to put the sign.
At Dave Tallarico's place.
Yep.
And I'm like, really, I would be super interested in doing an underground infiltration bed, because people don't know about those either, which is what you're getting in that parking lot, which is different from pervious pavement. It captures the stormwater and directs it into a bed underneath the parking area. So that would be a really interesting sign too. And I'm sure Philadelphia has them.
So I guess in the interest of time, the key question is, when will EAC need to take a vote on allocating this money for 3 specific signs at specific sites?
Okay, we were hoping today, I don't know if this is specific enough, that we've got it down. We still have to find a few things, but I think that the porous pavement one, trying to find a tree trench, and then doing a rain garden as our first ones, and probably Stonecliff, unless we find another, or the, which, and I love Bill's idea of we pay for Stonecliff and get one, see if we can partner and show, if the History Center likes the signs and wants, that would be great. If we could then get 2 instead of just 1, use it, as he said, as a model and to get things moving.
Yeah, I think once they go in, people will like them, because it sort of advertises their business too, in that they're doing green infrastructure, and with an explanation of how it's done. We could do like a private partnership with businesses.
So let me try this as a motion. I move that we authorize 3 signs for green infrastructure to be created, that they include a rain garden, a porous pavement, and a tree trench if possible, but that the final selection is the Green Infrastructure Subcommittee is authorized to pick the final selection based upon further investigation of the details.
Very cool. A second?
Second,
Questions, clarifications, comments?
And I guess the only thing I would add is that I think we figured that that would be about half, for about $5,000, we should be able to get 3 signs. Is that
yeah, ish,
5 or 6-ish?
yeah.
That we wouldn't use,
Probably, 'cause
so
it
we'd
was
still leave 4,000.
For 5. So 6, more light, yeah.
Okay,
And so the motion was to authorize the Green Infrastructure Committee to spend up to $5,000,
No, up to 6.
up to $6,000 on those 3 signs.
Mhm.
1 infiltration bed, 1
no, one tree,
To be determined per site location.
yeah, and then, and one rain garden and 1 basketball court porous pavement.
perfect. Any
Step.
other questions before we go ahead and put it to a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Woohoo, progress. So we look forward to hearing your feedback from your next meeting. So,
Yeah, I guess one more thing is we need to talk about the logo because we want them to go on the signs.
very cool. So I didn't see it on the agenda, although I did see the emails flagged. Shelley?
I
Ralph
think,
has had his hand up, so I just
Oh,
wanted
thank
to
you.
make
I'm
sure
sorry,
we
Ralph.
include him in the discussion.
Yes, Scott, I've tried a couple times. First of all, I'm gonna go back because I couldn't jump in. I didn't want to jump in your meeting, but there are some industrial wells in the city. And when I was still with the city, they were active wells. So that is a definite, unless they shut down in the last 15 months.
no, we're aware of that.
Okay.
Those aren't a problem.
I wanted to let you know that Dave Talarico, and I put it in the chat, came to me when I was in the city. He started out with an environmental friendly concept in his mind. He's had this vision all along of putting all these projects together. He's been a true leader, and more so than you're hearing, because he's a very humble man, but fabulous work there. And I don't know if it's part of it, but I know he and I arranged to have some money in the budget back when to also deal with the tree issues along that whole corridor as well. I don't know if that's in his project plan yet or not. And on your specific item you just voted on, I want to share with you that Stone Cliff is actually a county park, not a city park. So if you're going to Stone Cliff, you're not really, go ahead, Shelley.
Yeah, Ralph, you weren't here, but we just had to change the PSP because we couldn't get permission to install at Stone Cliff. So it's going to be on city property very nearby the Stone Cliff parking lot. So
Okay,
it's
that's what I
slightly
was-
adjusted off of county property.
That's what I was going to encourage. And the other place, and I don't know, Marcia, how you feel about it, or Shelley, but man, Third and Spruce, that whole big property there could really, benefit from these ideas, maybe even all of them. And what a nice place if you could showcase all your different things at one place. So wanted to share the Third and Spruce property as a conceptual idea.
I like that idea, Ralph. Third and
Thank you,
Spruce.
Ralph. And why don't we save some of that conversation for the Green Infrastructure Committee? Which is where those decisions will be made, but thank you for the additional input. So then we've got invasive weeds and the Victory Gardens. Kathy?
Okay, we don't have invasive weeds. This is like the cursed project ever. So I started last month. I told you I started all over and went back to basically Shelley's brilliant original plan, except that we're going to have a part 1 that's about the implementation of the Noxious Weed Act and what the city has to do its mandated duties, and part 2 to be about invasive species and not dumping yard waste in our parks and stuff. And I wrote the thing, was almost done. And I was writing it on my old computer that's really an Alvernia computer that we keep using for a while because I didn't want to organize getting it back to them, and they pulled my plug and it went black and it's gone.
Oh, no.
So I have to just do it over again. And I started that, but I'm not done. So it's still another month. I'm going to try and write it again next week before I forget, because I'll forget what I wrote.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
So,
Victory Gardens?
Go on to Victory Gardens. On the Victory Garden front, there was a lot happening. Lucine Sahelnick pulled together the Victory Garden Task Force. Shelley's been helping a lot. The big news, I think, is that the County Conservation District is applying for an urban agricultural grant, actually 2 different grants. One would get a person to be a coordinator for urban agriculture, and the other is to develop the program, as I understand it. That program, one of the things we were interested in, because we've talked about it before, is using unused public property sites around the city for green infrastructure development and for projects and for new gardens and all that sort of thing. And some screening started to be done, thinking about an urban agricultural initiative. And they had 44 properties that we were thinking about looking at for possible rain gardens or tree trenches or pollinator gardens or any number of things. But that would really be next year would be to that point, because we've got to get the coordinator on and the program on, but we should all be thinking about that. But we really wouldn't be screening for sites sort of till next year. But those are the main issues about that. The other thing that's exciting is that Lucine Sahelnick, Congresswoman Sahelnick, is applying for to get on the advisory committee for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Urban Agriculture Advisory Committee. And so we'll keep our fingers crossed that she would get on that, because that would be an exciting way to really boost and know what's going on with opportunities for improving urban agriculture.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy.
Shelley, is there anything I left out that was really critical that we wanted to bring back?
The other thing that developed by email, the Victory Task Force is also working with the new garden that's going in at Oak Brook.
Yes. Oak Brook.
And they are interested in having some rain barrels on the site to help with watering issues. And I told them I would speak with you all, since we've done the rain barrel workshops in the past. The Conservation District still has access to those barrels if you all are interested in helping them install the ones for the community garden and then do a workshop for residents in the community.
Yes, and in fact, David Bean and I on our BCTV show this morning highlighted that possibility. Not that the EAC was doing it, but that we've done some in the past, and we'd be thinking about that possibility. We're partnering again with the Conservation District. So I'm in favor of that, doing that again. I would help work on that.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Well, I just wanted to mention to Kathy, if you need the access to that site, just please give me a call. Because that Oak Brook site, our maintenance team takes care of that area.
Yeah, yeah, you're the other big partner in that. In fact, that's what I thought you might be going to talk about because it was on my mind.
Yeah, well, Jack Knoxted and and Guadalupe and Tanya,
Right.
I mean, from the 18th Wonder, we're all over that thing. So
Yes.
anything that you need from us, please let me know.
Thank you.
So one thing I'm interested in with the Victory Garden, I know I'm not on that committee, but I'm very interested in the educational piece for soil health and no-till gardening, and possibly using crimpers as a way to knock down the weeds in a no-till organic gardening setting. Rodale has them. So
Yeah.
I'm very interested in soil health. I
Okay,
think
so
it's really-
let's put that on our agenda for our green infrastructure task force committee, because the three things we're working on now is the green infrastructure for stormwater and the signage for that, the Victory Gardens, and the climate policy issues.
Oh, thank you. Whew, that's a lot. Kathy, thank you for all you're doing with that green infrastructure committee.
Are you retired?
Um,
I am. That's why I'm finally doing something.
So let's bounce over to the new business piece. And Bethany, at the very beginning of this phone call, you mentioned the community cleanups. So Bethany, if you would give us a quick overview of the community cleanups, and I would push on you to also just give us a quick update on Virtual Earth Day.
Oh, yes. Okay. So let's do Virtual Earth Day first. And I am very, very thankful for Scott for coming onto our team to help us make Virtual Earth Day happen. It is going to be happening April 22nd through the 25th. It can be accessed through the Earth Day Berks Facebook page and through our website, which is www.earthdayberks.org. We are going to be highlighting a whole bunch of community members who are doing great things to make our community more sustainable. And then we are planning on trying to do in person June 13th at City Park. There is room for sponsorship still, and it is open to every city department to be there, kind of telling the story of what you do. I would also like to invite EAC to have a presence there. I think it'd be a really easy outreach for everybody. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me or Scott, and we can get that stuff to you. And yes, Shelley.
So originally, however many years ago this was going to be, the EAC did register for a table. So does that carry over, or how do we need to fill out the application again?
Was it for last year's event?
I think so, because it got
Okay.
canceled because of
Yeah.
COVID. So
Yep. Yeah. So they're already registered. I just need to know that, yes, you're definitely coming. So I have a spot for you. Instead of doing a traditional big tent with a bunch of people under it, we are going to be doing individual spaces. So kind of picture Candyland with a kind of a trail around. So it's going to give everybody more space to do activities, and also so we're not having bottlenecks of people. We are still in significant community spread. So, masks will be required, and they will be enforced. And, but we want to be able to give everybody the opportunity to come out and participate together while still being distant. So fingers crossed, everybody keep masking and doing what you need to do.
Thank you, Bethany. And I know we're going to lose some people as
Yes.
other meetings pop up, but go ahead and share about the community cleanups.
Okay, community cleanups. We have started community cleanup season. And at this point, we have 22 on the books already scheduled for this year. My goal is to be really optimistic and try to do 100. And I think that's a very attainable goal. The biggest one coming up is the Great American Cleanup, which is April 24th. And it is going to be a multiple site cleanup. Traditionally in the past, we've kind of had one meetup spot and then everybody fanned out from that spot. This year, I do not want to have 300 people showing up in one spot. So we are looking to do hopefully 10 different sites. And if I have 30 people at each site, that's much more manageable and more of the city gets taken care of. We have currently 5 sites absolutely confirmed, including the YMCA. The Reading Parking Authority is going to host Franklin Street area. Our favorite people at South of Penn and the Reading Iron Playground is going to host South of Penn area. It looks like we have Oakbrook on board, but I'd like to have maybe Glenside, and I'm having trouble getting in contact with Jack, so I need to get with them this week.
I'll put a bug in his ear for you.
All right, thank you. And then
He's
also
been working on the garden.
YMCA is going to be hosting the Washington and 6th Street, and poor 6th Street always gets neglected. I really want to hit hard that 6th Street corridor this year.
Mhm.
And if anybody else would like to sponsor any sites, City of Reading will be providing all of the equipment. We will be providing a staff person to help, but we need a host and we would like to have community partners provide snacks. That is not something that's in my budget and I can't go around asking. So I'm hoping the community partners can do that. And I want to have signups and everything live next week. So if anybody wants to, yes, Marcia.
Yeah, and we've done some fabulous cleanups. I want to thank you, Bethany. One of the things I noted though is the people in the neighborhoods in the community oftentimes aren't as engaged. So we bring in people that are all enthusiastic, and we saw this happen at Pandora Park, where the kids are just standing around doing their basketball stuff. We need to figure out how to get the people that are using the facilities to be involved in the cleanup. So it
Yes.
isn't other people coming in and taking care of the property. So any ideas? I actually reached out because we had snacks and I asked some young men to help and they very gracefully did it.
Mhm.
But you need to really not ignore the fact that the neighbors are around watching what's going on.
Yeah, I really want to, and this is why I'm really thankful that we have Christian to help me spread the word. And he's just waiting for me to give him the direction. So we're going to be pushing this through not only social media, but through more traditional media channels as well. I do have a call with Olivets tomorrow to have them host Pandora and then also Clinton Street, which are always areas. I would like to include Neversink in it. I just don't have somebody specific in mind other than you, Marcia.
Well, actually with Neversink, we can work with Fairview Christian Academy. They clean up their.
Oh, yes, they do. Thank you for that
Yeah,
suggestion.
Yeah, so I'll text you Lewis's number, the gentleman that actually wants to rebuild the playground.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be a great way to kind of get that that conversation started.
Yeah.
You know, with that playground as well, with the neighbors in that neighborhood.
Very cool. Thank you, Bethany.
Okay, one more thing. I am applying for a grant. It is the community grant that Congresswoman Houlihan is sending around. And it's going to be a little one. I don't want to ask for too much because I want them to say we're an easy yes. Seeking $7,500 to purchase durable equipment specifically for the community cleanups.
Good.
So we have enough equipment for these big ones, but also so say, you know, the neighbors on Marcia's block are like, you know what, we want to have a block party but we need some equipment to clean up the street. They can come and check it out from us and then return it. So I will be sending Shelley a letter of support that I'm hoping the EAC will sign. And I plan on having that grant fully written tomorrow, and it is due April 2nd. They very graciously decided to give us an extension yesterday, and I think I did backflips because it's a really busy time for all of us over in sustainability and solid waste. So I think that is everything I had with cleanups and the grant.
So I
Very cool.
move
So
that
one,
we send a letter of support to Bethany Ayers Fisher, I guess it gets to you or to your office, whichever is more appropriate, supporting the grant for durable cleanup, community cleanup equipment.
is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Second? Any conversation?
Who's writing it?
Bethany,
Oh, cool.
It applied, yeah.
Excellent question, Ann. Any other questions?
And who's managing it? With our grant manager, but yeah.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye. Opposed? Very cool.
Thank you very much
Kathy.
thank you very much.
So
All right.
to Marcia's question real quick, have you
thanks, Dave.
thought about having like a band or something to draw young people out, or, you know, some sort of celebration type of thing for the cleanup?
Nice suggestion, Ann.
I think they used to do that when we were allowed to have large gatherings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that South of Penn uses that a lot. I don't have that in our budget to be able to hire 10 different bands this year. But it's something to consider, like if there wanted to be a specific cleanup for a specific area, you know, the community partners, of course, can do that. I cannot justify that out of my budget at all. But if a community partner wanted to do that, absolutely.
Very
ice
cool. So
cream is
I am
super
kind of just
popular.
keeping an eye on our time. So we have
Yeah.
8 minutes. Marcia, we did promise to give you a quick update on the pagoda and the renewable energy credits. So we had one local company that had said they had excess renewable energy credits and they were happy to donate those credits. But since since we last spoke with them, they've expanded. So they are now having to buy more renewable energy credits. So, but Marcia, if we have some sort of formal request or embrace of the idea from the Pagoda Foundation group, that will go a long way. And I'm happy to continue conversations on behalf of the Pagoda groups.
Okay, and I think it's important right now to be able to just do a reality check on where the city and the foundation are with the structure of the pagoda and moving along with every project. As we met with our Deputy Public Works Director and we started to survey and look, we realized there is so much major infrastructure work that needs to be done to that building, including the wall that's basically collapsing in front of the building. The fact that the concrete around a lot of the foundation, the rebar is now showing through, which means that basically the structure is being compromised. And it's important to get a complete study done because we can't work on the lighting until we make sure that building is secure the way it needs to be. Okay, and so I think that reality check for everyone that's understands sustainability, that building was never probably where it's located meant to be in existence for over 110 years. If you look at what's happening with climate change, with soil erosions, everything like that is really impacting on the stability. Not to say it's going to fall off the mountain, but if it isn't taken care of in a prudent manner, eventually the foundation that it sits on is going to be compromised. And the reason I put that out is, as much as I understand where we want to go with the energy credits, I'm wondering whether we're putting the cart before the horse. We sort of need to take care of the building and be able to make sure that the city's planning for what it needs to invest in. If the city can't do it, who can? Okay, so
That sounds good. Thank you, Marcia. So then,
that's it.
So thank you, Marcia. So Shelley, what I'm hearing from that is we can probably strike this from our regular updates until we hear back from the Pagoda Foundation folks that it's a project worth pursuing.
Can I just ask you though, I think it's important to have as many community partners advocate for what needs to happen to the pagoda, to say that you value it as a community icon, and that we're all behind what might need to do when we're talking about major fundraising here in multi-millions of dollars, okay, to really sustain that building. So I just wanted to put that out and ask you guys to be allies for what needs to happen moving ahead.
Very good. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So with the 4 minutes remaining, I would encourage folks to skim down that list of project updates to see if there's anything worth sharing. Shelley?
One other thing under new business, if you think we have time or we can defer how to spend the rest of the 21 budget, so we have some goals and direction for that.
Excellent question. I think we're going to have to punt. I doubt we can do it in 4 minutes. But Kathy, as you continue looking at the cost of the signs and stuff like that, that'll affect how much remaining budget there is.
Right, and I think we could certainly do more signs and there are more opportunities, but we wanted to save it for some other things that, and especially if there's something we can end up doing on the climate action plan issues. And I don't think we've, that had a logical slowdown because of the loss of Kevin Lugo, but we need to pick that back up again, and I'm not sure what our involvement might be. So
Agreed.
wanted to be
Agreed.
generous and hold that money out. So everybody should think about it, but I think we want to not earmark it too for sure yet.
I agree. Thank you, Kathy. Other insights, comments for the good of the order?
Well, just real quick, as far as the trails are concerned, we haven't had a Greater Reading Trails meeting. However, I was in a meeting with Dave Tallarico, and they're talking about connecting the 18th Wonder or Ward area to the Schuylkill River Trail, and they're setting up meetings with the folks that run that down in Pottstown. Used to be a foundation. I can't remember their name now, but they are going forward with connecting through public-private partnerships and public-owned land to connect the 18th Ward to the SRT, which connects right in Schlegel Park. That's it.
Cool. Thank you, Ann. All right. I see several people having to log out. I am right there with the group. Anything else?
God, if I could take 1 minute.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Bill to take 1 minute.
And I apologize, but those, the lead abatement initiative for the city is a conflict here. That went extremely long, but it was extremely positive, so it was a good thing. We were on with HUD and the grant applicators, and we're doing very well with that. The next thing I just want to comment, you guys may have seen some articles in reference to PFAS, PFOS. Just let me put you at ease. There's nothing changing right now. The only thing is it's moved its way up to the top, and people want to know what's the country been doing. It's being put under a microscope. There's a whole lot more to come. The good news is in Berks County, it's really not. We're on the low end of any issues with that, guys. But they're going to look to try to get everybody else to reach what we already have. But that doesn't mean we're not going to have to do a million things. We are. And the last thing I just wanted to say was the lead and copper. You might be hearing some stuff about that too. That was just changed, and those rules are set to go into effect in 2.5 years. There's some discussion now about possibly pulling back on that and actually redoing some things in a more strict fashion. I doubt that's going to happen, but there's some, congressional movement to say, you didn't go far enough with the last administration. We wanted to go even further. Stop what you're doing. And you guys know, by the time it's gone and the horse has left the starting gate, County, they'll do that with regulation. They won't do it with laws. So that's what's probably going to happen with it when you start reading about lead and copper. So all good stuff going on in the city right now with that, guys.
Great.
Very cool.
And
Thank
I apologize
you,
but I quick jumped on as soon as I hung up, just to give you the update. I don't want to wait for another month. I know Ann won't sleep at night if I don't give her the update.
Thank you, Bill. All right, so I need to duck out for another meeting. So unless there's a strong demand, I'm gonna suggest that the meeting is officially over at this point. We have ended on time.
Well, real quick, we have to set up a green
Okay.
infrastructure meeting.
That's
All
what I
right,
was
so
gonna
I'm gonna
say.
duck out.
I am too, guys.
Bye,
But if
bye,
you need me,
Scott.
you know
Thank
where to
you.
reach me. You know where to reach me.
Thanks, Bill.
So
Here,
can
guys,
you
you're
do
welcome.
that, Shelley?
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I wanted to do too, say we'll need to set up a meeting so we can keep plugging away at this.
All right, bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Long.